There is some good news for the Chancellor, it seems, this morning, as she wrestles with ways to save apparently £40 billion in the budget. The Institute for Public Policy Research, the IPPR, says that one of her tax-raising options, increasing capital gains tax, will not lead to lower investment, slower growth or reduced entrepreneurship. Well, let's speak to Pranesh, who is a research fellow at the IPPR and joins us live this morning. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Just talk us through what you found with your research today.
Sure. So we've been looking into, how does capital gains tax actually impact entrepreneurship? And what we found is that entrepreneurs are much more focused on market conditions, access to finance, and wider economic conditions than they are about the capital gains tax rate, which is effectively the amount, a tax on, how much you cash out when you sell a business, not how much you pay when you're running a business. So ultimately, we think that capital gains tax is poor value for money if we're trying to encourage entrepreneurship. It basically, at least half of the benefit goes to people who are either passive asset owners or who set up tax shelters as single employees and, basically work as contractors in high value services industries. So we know that the government has over 30 schemes in place already that actually target support to entrepreneurs, things like the Enterprise Investor Scheme, that provides tax breaks to people who invest in startups and also government-backed loss relief as well. So actually having a low rate of capital gains tax is a really poorly targeted way of supporting entrepreneurship. We think the government should actually expand their usage of some of these much more targeted schemes and reform capital gains tax. And by the way, we're not just talking about putting up capital gains tax rates to income tax rates. We think that is one part of a wider package of reforms that are needed. The reform package recommended by the Institute for Fiscal Studies also mentions things like introducing an investment allowance and closing some of the loopholes for capital gains tax in inheritance.
But Pranesh, just on that capital gains tax, though, as far as I know, I've just read today that apparently only 12,000 people pay 2/3 of the total revenue from capital gains tax. Isn't it very unpredictable because that's such a small number of people?
It might be unpredictable for certain types of people, but I mean, the evidence does show that there are several very wealthy people who do regularly take income as capital gains. So overall, the amount of capital gains that have been made in the economy has been skyrocketing over the last 10 years. So I don't think that year-to-year unpredictability means it's a bad tax to raise. I think we're actually sitting on an explosion of wealth that the tax system hasn't really caught up with yet.
OK, well, it's really fascinating in research, and we're going to find out how it plays out, of course, in that budget in less than 2 weeks' time, whether the government will go down that road. Pranesh, for now, from the IPPR, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Well, what do potentially the people impacted by this think of it? Delighted to say I'm joined by two millionaires. Nice to be a millionaire, isn't it? Julia Davies is an impact investor for a group called Patriotic Millionaires. And Charlie Mullins, famously, of course, sold Pimlico Plumbers in 2021 and is now based in Marbella, apparently. Charlie, let's start with you. Apparently, these changes, if they do come to capital gains tax, not going to really make that much difference.
They're what, sorry?
They're not really going to make much difference, apparently, according to the IPPR.
Is he joking or something? Of course it would make a lot of difference. They're going to raise it possibly from 20% to double it, possibly 40% or even up to 45%. It makes all the difference in the world. It's commercial suicide, what they're doing. They're just driving people out of the UK. I'm one of them, and there's many others that have left and many others will leave. They're just absolutely... they've obviously got no idea about business, how to increase the revenue. They're doing the complete opposite and making businesses shut down, making people leave the country. They're forcing people out of the country. So that chap who just said it make no difference, I don't know what world he lives in, but he certainly don't live in the business world. Many people are now stopping employing people because of the workers' rights. They're already stopping now, obviously because of the capital gains. Basic tax rate could even go up. their higher tax rate could go up. They're doing everything they can to destroy businesses in the UK.
OK. Julia, what do you reckon?
Well, I invest in businesses in the UK, and I am in business, and I speak to my founders on a regular basis. In fact, I asked one of my founders yesterday, what did he think about potentially capital gains tax being increased? Would that worry him? And he just laughed. He said that's not something he even thinks about, because he's focused on achieving what he's aiming to do as a business. He's focused on growing the business and getting to profitability. And if he gets to the point where he's, going to sell the business and he's going to make a gain on that, then he would be delighted to contribute back to the country, which has enabled him to grow the business. So don't forget that what businesses need is they need a stable, well invested in country, and that means public investment. So for a very long time there's been significant underinvestment in public services and infrastructure, and that literally means that some systems are crumbling. So our NHS has been struggling for a very, very long time. That means we have workers that are on long-term sick, unable to get back to work. We have a criminal justice system that's really struggling at the moment. I wonder whether or not that's a bigger problem for some of these millionaires, because they're worried about walking around in London now with their Rolexes on their wrist. So everybody actually benefits from a better invested in public services and infrastructure. And I think that's the real problem. And some of these people that are saying they're going to leave the UK, I think you'll find they've already left and they've already moved the money out of the UK. Whereas I'm invested in British businesses.
Let Charlie come back on our point, because he has left the country.
Wants to achieve, which is a transition to clean energy, transition to a circular economy.
Let's have Charlie respond to that.
Julie, I disagree with everything you're saying, right? Loads of people have left, loads of people will leave, and to say from any businessman that it's not an off-putting thing to increase capital gains is absolutely rubbish. I've paid into the system for 55 years, I've paid in over 100 mil, and I'm not prepared to pay in anymore. So I have to be honest with you, I'd like you to get this businessman on the TV and say it makes no difference to him. Of course it makes a difference. Why do you think business run a business? To keep paying everything to the government? People keep saying to me, you're not patriotic. I am patriotic. For 55 years, I've paid into the system. I've employed thousands of people. I've trained loads of youngsters up. I've contributed to charity. I get involved with anything to do with helping youngsters into work. And I've got people like you. I'm telling you, Julie, you're wrong. You are wrong.
Julie?
Totally.
Thank you. So I can tell you that people run businesses for a whole range of reasons. So I invest in companies who are addressing many of the solutions that we're facing as a society. So they're actually taking forward the missions of this government to move us towards clean energy transition, energy efficiency, a circular economy. And all of those things create the jobs of the future, because not all jobs are equal and not all businesses are equal. What we need to focus on are jobs which are good for society as a whole, that are creating the jobs which are going to last in the long term, because we are transitioning to clean energy, because it makes sense. It's going to be cheaper. It's going to deliver on tackling fuel poverty. It's going to clean up the air in our cities. And so businesses, as I said, they are run by people for a whole range of people and reason. And I can tell you, I invested in the first company where I got my money from by selling my house. I invested my money in that. I took risks. I could say that I'm a wealth creator, but I would say that most people in the UK are wealth creators. Our employees are wealth creators. Everyone that trains, teaches our kids.
Of course, and Charlie's also wealth creator.
We have to invest in those people too.
Yeah, let's see what he has to say.
Yeah. Julie, I'll ask you this question. Are we better off with all the wealth creators in the UK, people that run businesses, people that employ people that invest in the UK, entrepreneurs? Are we better off with them in the UK or out of the UK? It's a straightforward question.
We're best off with people in the UK who believe in the British people and invest in British businesses and are willing to invest in infrastructure and services within the UK. Because this isn't a case of can't, it's a case of don't want to. And there's only two options here, really. Everybody knows that we need to invest in better infrastructure and services within the UK, which is going to help people in businesses.
Can I ask you a question?
If we don't get it from people who can afford to do that, what we're saying is people who can't afford have got to pay more.
OK, Charlie, can I ask you a question, which is, you've left the UK. What the Labour government have done, they've brought political stability, which we don't necessarily have had for the last couple of years in the UK. And they say they are pro business, that they are pro-growth. Growth is at the heart of what they want to do. Why don't you believe them?
Well, because they're clueless. None of them in the cabinet have ever been involved in business. And if you know anything about business, you would not be putting up all the increases, which is going to deter people from going into business. Employers have already stopped employing people because of the workers' rights. Then they're going to stop employing them because of the national insurance side. Business people will not invest so much in the UK because of the capital gains. People will not work in the UK because the increase in taxes. The way to increase the economy, yes, get people into work. I'm all for that, and that's what we should be concentrating on. But unfortunately, we're driving people out of work. And you know, I mean, me and Julie would never agree on this, and I'm really surprised, Julie, that some of the content you come away from what we're talking about. You know, are the government, has the government got it right? Ask probably 90% of people, and they will tell you the government, Labour, it ain't working what they're trying to introduce.
Julia, just finally on this, do you understand that there might be other people like, you might agree with it, but there might be other people like Charlie Mullins who may well vote with their feet on this, who feel the same way, and that is, Charlie Mullins, and that is a risk.
Well, like I said, a lot of the people that are saying that have already moved out of the UK. A lot of those people have already moved their money out of the UK. So who do you listen to? Do you listen to the people who are investing in British businesses, who are saying, we're here, we're staying, we believe in the British people, we know that they have given so much over recent years. And because we can afford to do this, we're happy to stand shoulder to shoulder with the British people and support investment in this country so that our businesses of the future can thrive. That's investing in British jobs. That's investing in the British economy and our British people.
It's not happening, Julie. Look, you can say what you want, you can put it over what you want. Investors have stopped investing in the UK. Investors are moving out of the country. Entrepreneurs are moving out. People that create wealth, people that create jobs. To actually say that they're still doing it and they're better off. So in a short while, we know when the country goes bust.
I can just come in on that. So Charlie's talking in the past. He's talking about these people. They've already moved their money. They've already moved out of the UK, as Charlie has himself.
Okay.
So those tax increases that we're talking about, they haven't happened yet. They're not on the agenda. So a lot of these people are saying, we will move if you make taxation fairer.
And they will.
Because that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
You have got to look at fairness with people who work for a living. They are also wealth creators. They are also people that work really, really hard. So we're talking about fairness. So a lot of these people that are now jumping up and down, they've already moved their money, they've already moved out of the UK, and they can afford to make this contribution, whereas a lot of the people
they're clever enough to
pay in
spot
additional investment otherwise.
Julia and
really
Charlie, we could do this all day. In fact, there's hardly any need for me to be here, but we really, really appreciate the time this morning. Clearly very, very different views on this, and we've got the budget in less than 2 weeks' time. We will find out whether capital gains tax is likely to increase and what impact will have. Thank you, Charlie. I'm sure you can carry this offline. Looks very nice there, though, in Marbella. That is Charlie Mullins and Julia Davies there on the issue of capital gains tax.